We are live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. I am your host for tonight, surprisingly, although I have been your host for the last 2 to 3 weeks, because we are showing you from our perspective, since we have reached our 5 years of being online, to show you a little bit of some of the films that mean something to us, or at least speak to us individually. And well, I shall probably tell you about the film that I subjected to these guys this week. So this week, I decided to discuss a 2015 film based on a 1975 novel by J.G. Ballard, which I guess has taken quite a few years through several hands to try to put this to film in some kind of adaptation. And Ben Wheatley is the guy who directed this film, using the writing efforts of, I believe, Amy Jump. And the film stars Tom Hiddleston, Jeremy Irons, Sienna Miller, Luke Evans, Elizabeth Moss, James Purefoy, among others. But let's tell you a little bit about what the film is about from IMDb's perspective, which is very vague. Life for the residents of a tower block begins to run out of control.
No.
Very vague. But let's go into first impressions of this particular film. And let's start with you, Brandon. Was this a first-time watch for you?
No, oddly enough, it was not. My wife is a big fan of Tom Hiddleston, and Loki and all that fun stuff. And she saw this like, we've got to watch this. And then I know we finished it, and I didn't remember much about the film. I remembered a little bit, and she didn't remember much about it either, saying I didn't care for it, is what she had said about herself. And I was like, I guess that's how I feel. I'm not sure. I don't remember. So I was like, okay, this will be another opportunity to try it again. And this film has everything that I would really like in a film. It has the class warfare, psychological issues, really strange stuff going on. A lot of that, under a normal basis, would appeal to me. And even the acting is done very well. I mean, Tom Hiddleston, Sienna Miller, all of them did really good performances. I mean, Luke Evans did a particularly good performance in this. But for me, I just couldn't get an interest in it. It committed one of the cardinal sins for me, which is I was bored. And whenever I was looking at the end, trying to see how much was left, which is a rare thing for me. I don't usually, like I say, this thing has everything that I would think that I would like out of a movie, but at the same time, I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't really identify with the characters. I couldn't really gain an interest in the story, even though I wanted to. But still, like I say, everything seems solid on there. I just don't know why, but just couldn't hook me. Yep, that's it on my end.
Alrighty. Going over to you, Kroll. Was this a first time watch for you? You are muted, bud.
Oops, sorry. First time watch, and I hadn't actually even heard of it. I do like Tom Hiddleston. He's awesome as Loki. So I was optimistic that I would like this movie. Turns out, yeah, it's not that memorable. I mean, I'm already forgetting things about it, and just watched it right before the show. So yeah, it was just it seemed like it would be interesting, but I guess it just, I don't know, it was boring. It was boring, and it kind of made me think of Gosford Park, in a way. So I think that was actually a little more entertaining. Yeah. So I mean, the sex scenes were cool, but I don't know, just even those scenes kind of off. I don't know. I don't know what to say. You know, first time he's having sex with that woman, she's just talking to him like they're having normal conversations. Tell me, where'd your sister die? Like, what? In the middle of sex? I mean, I don't know if it's one of those UK things, because I don't know. A lot of newer English comedy I don't get, so I don't know if it's one of those things or not. But I don't know. Just I also checked the time to see how long before it was over, because it felt like it went on for a while. So I don't do that very often. I've done that a couple times this month. These couple months. So yeah, that was my first impression of it.
Okay. Moving on to Forrest. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, this was. I've never heard of this movie, but I love the cast. I love Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Actually, as Loki. Jeremy Irons, Elizabeth Moss are always great. Who was directed by Ben Wheatley? I'm trying to think of these.
Ben Wheatley is director of Kill List.
Yes, and he also did Free Fire, which I really enjoyed. And typically, like what if I see a movie that starts off with the magnet logo, I'm usually expecting something usually very entertaining. Yeah, it's like every time it goes, it's like anytime it's like, but this is the first time. But I have to agree with Jay with Jake. This is not. This was not. I did not find this movie very engaging at all.
You mean Kroll?
Me?
Are you talking about me? Are you talking about my?
Brandon. Yeah, I'm sorry, Brandon. I have to agree with Brandon. I did not find this movie engaging. Really, very engaging, and it was very. I actually was, despite all like the freaky, sex and violence, I just found it very boring. I had a hard time. I had a hard time holding my attention to it. I don't know if it was the pacing or the script.
It's just weird, isn't it? Like how everything looks like it would be like right on there, and then just suddenly it comes together odd.
Yeah,
exactly. It has everything that you would think you'd like in a movie, and somehow
it just doesn't land.
It just doesn't. It doesn't entertain. It just kind of.
For me, it just really dragged. It just dragged a lot. It just dragged a lot.
It really does. It really does.
For me, it's probably the first magnet releasing that I didn't like.
Okay.
It's very odd. Very odd. It's just I don't even know where to pinpoint it. I mean, pacing maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the problem is. It's just.
Well, it's real interesting. Before I go into Tammy's viewpoint and Jake's viewpoint and my viewpoint, I did want to say something about something that someone said. I'm not exactly sure who said this about this film, but it's a film about the past, set in the past, but projects a future. Okay, a post-apocalyptic future that's set in the 70s. So I also know that J.G. Ballard, he's behind the film Empire of the Sun. He's the writer and the novelist behind that.
Yeah, he also wrote. I know he wrote Crash, which I really enjoyed. I never read the book, but I saw the movie, which I really enjoyed.
But,
the Cronenberg film, right?
Yes.
Not the
other one. Yes, Cronenberg's Crash, aka the Good Crash.
Okay. I was like, oh, really?
So it's not that J.G. Ballard's films do not adapt to film, because from what I understand, Empire of the Sun was actually a fairly successful at the time.
It was
releasing, but going into first impressions again. Tammy, was this a first time watch for you?
No, we actually had watched it before, but I actually tend to agree with everybody that spoke already. I found it not that interesting, basically boring, and very strange. So I really did not get into it.
Okay. What about you, Jake? Was this a first time watch for you?
It was. And to preface this, I want to piggyback off of your comment just a minute ago. Just because everyone's talking about how boring this film is, and to be honest, Empire of the Sun is one of the less entertaining Spielberg films in my book. Now, I've only seen it once, and it was a darn good movie. But in terms of the entertainment that we expect from Spielberg, it was definitely one of his drier films, I thought. And then Forrest mentioned Free Fire. Free Fire was actually my first introduction to the stuff directed by Ben Wheatley. I see that he's up for directing the next Meg movie. I'm kind of interested in that. But after these two films, I don't know. Free Fire was another one that had all the right elements. You got a great cast: Brie Larson, Cillian Murphy, Charlton Copley. I'm not sure Armie Hammer still qualifies in most people's books, but he can act pretty well.
Brie
Noah
Larson,
Taylor,
ugh.
Anzo Silenti, who's also in this film. That was actually Wheatley's follow-up to High Rise. And I went into Free Fire going, holy crap, this looks like a good cast. This looks fun. And I found it tedious and dull and just did not grab me at all. This one actually grabbed me more than Free Fire. I'm actually probably going to be the most positive reaction to this one. It does become a little bit of a hot mess towards the end. It does get quite muddled about exactly what it is trying to convey. And there is one major, some might call it a plot hole, but certainly it nagged at the back of my mind and bugged me throughout the second half of the film. And we'll get to that, I guess, as we go.
Mm-hmm.
But the production values were solid. The acting was solid. I really liked Jeremy Irons' performance in this film. I really liked Elizabeth Moss and Tom Hiddleston in the film. Sienna Miller was solid. It was a good, and Luke Evans, as mentioned before. I'm not certain because I'm not as familiar with Anzo Silenti. I think he was that sort of asshole character that popped up from. There were a lot of asshole characters, but the one that was really, you know what I mean? Like, I could
the medical student that seemed to be kind of
the really snooty one who thought he was all that, even though he wasn't one of the upper class.
James Purefoy, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Well, maybe that was Purefoy. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. But anyway, point is, this actually was one that I knew about when it came out. I actually vaguely wanted to see it when it came out. I didn't get to it, and I just didn't get to it. It's one of those movies, it crosses your radar, and you're like, I'll watch that one day. So, Dave, I am grateful you finally gave me an excuse to watch it. Okay, so it was batshit and weird as hell, just like your first film of the month. And it actually was trying to say something like your second film of the month, and it ended up falling somewhere in the middle. So yeah, a decent overall reaction, but I agree with everyone else. The description I always have for Watchmen, which actually would apply to Free Fire as well, but to a lesser degree, because Watchmen had all the great elements. It had all the elements of a great film, except for some atrocious makeup and one or two bad performances. And yet, somehow, when you put all the pieces together, it did not equal the sum of its parts. I never quite got what the gap was. Although later I figured out that it was the general soullessness of Zack Snyder's films. But
I mean,
this
me,
one,
as a fan of the Watchmen comic, to me it was just a surface level adaptation. I mean, they got the look, but it's like
they definitely got the look.
It's like someone who you read the you look at the comic, but you didn't take away the message.
Yeah. And from people from reactions I've read from people who know the novel, I think a lot of them felt the same about this movie. I haven't read the book, so I don't know if it's much better or not. But I did enjoy this. Like, it kind of slams you over the head with the idea that yes, this is class warfare, but it's a novel idea of showing it, and I will give it that. Like, I like this way of showing the class warfare. Maybe with a little more finesse and a tighter editing, tighter pacing, maybe it would have been a solid film. But it was still pretty good.
I don't know why, but when you were talking about there's a lot of assholes here, I kept thinking about that Spaceballs scene. I'm surrounded.
So many assholes we got it.
The way
that is a great scene.
The way this film went mad is the same madness I felt when I watched Darren Aronofsky's Mother. And that's what this film reminded me of. This is my first impression.
That's the one with the computer thing. Computers are Mother, right?
No, Mother was the one where basically it was an allegory for God and the Earth, with Javier Bardem was God and Jennifer Lawrence was the Earth, and everyone else was humanity. And it's a weird ass film.
Yeah,
but I've seen something similar.
Yeah. But Dave, you helped out there. Okay, I was trying to think who the other person would be, because I definitely got a strong Kubrick vibe from this, but I got something else too. And I think Aronofsky. This is kind of like the unholy love child of Kubrick and Aronofsky. And it's kind of weird.
It is. And I had not too long before picking this film up at Dollar Tree, because it ended up being in the Dollar Tree bin, and I
buy that for $1.
I wouldn't buy that for $1.
And I bought it when it was $1, so that's at least good. So
at least you didn't waste a lot of money.
But I wasn't sure what to think of this film. All I know is that it was weird. I'd just seen Tom Middleton in a miniseries called The Night Porter, and we watched it while
I
it
need
was
to see that.
it
That's
was
a good
on.
one.
And it was a phenomenal performance. So when I saw that Tom Middleton was in this cast, and then when I read more about what this film was based on, J.G. Ballard is a phenomenal science fiction writer about post-apocalyptic fiction. And I've read several of his. I did not read High Rise, but now that I've seen this film, it made me want to go and read it, because it is just that weird. And see, I guess on the first watch, I had the same experience as you guys, but on the second watch, I was taken aback at the world that was given to us. I mean, you've got this high rise that's set in the 70s, okay, and you've got these three levels of a society. You've got lower class, middle class, and upper rich class society, and you've got this high rise that also has a restaurant, a second swimming pool, a hair salon, a junior middle school. It's got all these different services. A grocery store, which is the store that was in it. Didn't really have a department store. It had a grocery store.
Well, it wasn't really a grocery store either. It was I guess it was kind of a department and grocery store. Because when was the last time you bought paint at a grocery store?
Yeah.
True.
No, you could do that.
Not around here.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say I agree with Jake when it talks about the film did have a lot to say. I think that the fact that it had a lot to say, and I mean a lot to say, and maybe that's the issue. Maybe there were too many messages. Because, I mean, you're also talking about a reflection of consumerism on top of the class warfare, on top of the mental illness, on top of the kind of apocalyptic stuff. It's just a lot.
Yeah, that little Black Friday sequence where he has the last can of paint.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the characters. Tom Middleton is, well, in the novel, he is a divorced man who has moved into this high rise after his divorce. And evidently his sister has died, and that's one thing that comes up through the movie with his conversations with some of the residents of the high rise, and some of his conversations with Toby, the young child who is of one of the single mothers who lives like maybe 2 floors up from him. It's interesting that, you know, he is the last of his family, and he just comes off as a character who wants his privacy or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And he literally just lives 5 minutes from the medical place that he goes and teaches at. And what do y'all think about him as a character?
Well, like I've already said, I love Tom Hiddleston's work, and he's a good actor, and the character doesn't seem that bad. I mean, out of most of them, you know, he seemed pretty level-headed and decent character. Yeah, he does. I think he does an exceptional job at acting. I think most of the actors in it was great. Jeremy Irons is definitely another great actor too. So, yeah, I like the character, but there wasn't anything super special about him.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Very well acted, but not quite enough to get me like really invested in him necessarily. He was just kind of, I guess he worked well as a stand-in for some of the rest of us, maybe, but he was more of a fly on the wall, sort of a fly on the wall through a lot of it. He even worked hard to be the fly on the wall instead of,
I would call this particular piece of film a slice of life look into a world that evidently is being built inside the mind, and it's interesting to me because High Rise inquires into the ways in which modern social and technological landscapes could alter the human psyche in provocative and unexplored ways.
So, okay, I got a question for those. I've watched this film twice. I'm trying to figure out, was there really an apocalypse outside in society, or was it really just in the high rise?
Well, it seemed like it might.
Because he was going to work like normal until the.
The impression that the high
I don't
rise
know.
was kind of like.
It was weird that they said the police never showed up, but somebody removed the body from the vehicle.
Well,
so
there
yeah.
is a rumor that isn't expressed in the movie, but was more expressed in the novel, that Mr. Royal had actually paid the outside cops to look the other way, which is why when he came to the door and said, "Let's push this under the rug," but it wasn't necessarily spoken aloud enough for us to get that picture. You know?
I did kind of get that myself because of that scene, but like I said, it was just a little confusing because of the whole swan dive onto the car, and then the body was gone, but the blood was still stained on the car and on the ground and everything else. So it was just kind of weird that only one thing would be cleaned up and that's it.
And all the other high rises, they hint at them that are around them. Yeah, they may fall in the future, but they are functioning quite normally for the time being, which is also odd. I don't know. I was confused.
And as far as Tom Middleton's character, what did you think about his job, his teaching of physiology? Where
it was neat.
Where he actually like pounded into the skull of a man's head and pulled back the layer of that face, and
it was funny as hell when the dude passed out. I laughed my ass off.
And that dude's last name as a character was Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe. And it's funny, I laughed about that, and then later on, I was like, "Yeah, I'm really glad I laughed at that because he's an asshole."
Well, which is why instead of telling him that his scan came back clear, he actually told him that there was something there, just to knock him down a couple of notches. But he didn't expect him to like go and like commit suicide.
Oh, that was fake?
On. Yeah, that was fake. The scans came back all clear, and the nurses were just asking him to like tell him what to say to him. So he went to him while he was like having a flirtatious
I remember the whole scene and everything. I actually felt bad for him, even though he was kind of an ass. But I didn't realize that it was fake news. I kind of, I don't know.
I must have
I
missed
might have
that too.
I was
I
watching
didn't.
and I was listening, but I wasn't really sinking in what was going on because it's very hard to get into the movie.
I didn't catch it until the second go round. I actually really thought that he had cancer the first time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking was cancer myself. So yeah, that's what I was like, oh shit, was he have cancer? I mean, he never came out and said that, but that's what I was thinking it was. And then when he jumped, I was thinking, yeah, it had to be cancer because why else would he have jumped? Anything else could have.
I right away thought that Tammy started to hate the film from the very beginning because there is a wolf type dog that you see in the very beginning, and then he's roasting his leg in the very beginning scene. Tammy, what did you think about that beginning scene where he's roasting the dog's leg?
Gross.
Hey, you got what you gotta do to survive. And
I got to admit, the way that was shot and edited, I actually thought it was hilarious.
In the building apocalypse, so to speak.
Well, the thing is, this film takes place inside this high rise, and a lot of the people inside the novel says that there were about 2,000 people living inside this building.
Actually,
what do y'all think of that?
You know what this reminded me of? A little bit, though I think the movie was better. Matter of fact, it was another one of your choices, Dave. Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities between this and Snowpiercer. A little bit more on the population side. But yeah, there's a lot.
Well, definitely this one, I was thinking Snowpiercer and Parasite because Bong Joon-ho does have that class warfare thread through a lot of his stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like Snowpiercer, but standing upright instead of long ways.
Well, I like films like this where it shows the different class warfares at times for some reason. And like I said, I think that I had the same reaction that most of you did the first time I watched it. I was like, what the fuck? And I needed to have this film talked about because it was like a what the fuck moment. After my second watching, I actually started to like it more. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. There's something about the film that speaks to me. But on the same level, it's like, still, what the hey,
Because you just like the sex scenes, don't you?
It's not just the sex scenes. It's the violence and the chaos that everybody starts to go mad, and they start to
be all go a little mad
incoherent. And yeah, there is a moment where Luke Evans actually says that in here. We all go a little mad sometimes, So to me, I don't know. It's just the level of chaos and destruction that started to happen, and
that was the documentary guy, right? Luke Evans.
That was the Richard Wilder. He was.
That's what I said.
He was an interesting character because he's an auteur.
I liked him at first until the end.
He was he did a great job acting, though. He did.
He did a great. Like I said, all the actors and actors, everybody did good.
He's the one who had the pregnant wife, Helen.
I know he was once he said his name. I knew he was.
And he had the hots for the hot girl.
Yeah, and he raped her, and that's when I stopped liking him.
Well, that's where I started hearing the music. And I liked the music in here. They did they did some ABBA in the scene where Tom Middleton's character, he was invited to one of the higher ups parties, except he didn't realize it was a costume party. I guess so. I guess that was the joke.
Oh,
was on him.
they all laughed at him because it was like
Yeah.
it was like a Elizabethan type costume party, and he was just dressed in a regular suit.
I mean, I like how they did some of the transitioning. I mean, where you saw some of the fruit in the supermarket going bad little by little.
Yeah.
And again, like I say, I do want to preface that I don't necessarily I don't hate this film.
Yeah, I don't hate it either.
I just don't like this film. It's kind of
Same.
it's sort of that difference. It's like everything has a lot of high levels to it. And again, I just I don't know. But there are little things, like I said, those little things like the peaches that are molding here and there, the little power outages, the subtle touches. I feel like
I liked the way that Mr. Royals, Anthony Royals, top garden like area.
I fucking love that area. I first time I saw that, I was like,
was
wait.
So cool.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't believe how huge it was. And then when he's like, do I hear a horse? And they turn around and she's on a horse. And he's like, probably my wife loves running. I'm like, what the hell? They got a horse up there? Like,
there's a goat.
It was insane. It was actually.
And then I was thinking, what is little Miss Bo Peep around the corner? And sure enough, she's right around the corner. So
I do like how the rotting of the bottom floors trickles up to the top. I do think that's also a statement. This movie makes a lot of statements.
What's with all the trash? I mean, goddamn, what was the?
the trash? Well, it all started when he threw a large bag down the chute, and it stopped the garbage chute and piled the garbage up. So the garbage was the start of it. You know, the trash started heaping. You know, and you saw levels of it throughout the film. On the outside, and then of course when the kids had the party, I loved the fact that the one guy was referring to them as like baboons because they were throwing food outside and onto the cars. Specifically, that one dude, James Purefoy's character, who seemed like he was like the upper crust of society with his pipe. You know,
they loved throwing shit onto that car. I don't know whose car that was. We never find out, but we just know that you know they love throwing shit onto that car, and even that guy who swan dived. You know, you let it around the car.
So so this kind of leads into, I guess, the biggest issue I had with the film. At least logistically. You do see early on, I think we already mentioned, you see early on, Laird, I think his name is, Tom Hiddleston's character.
Lang.
Continuing to go to work elsewhere.
Yeah.
And you see that this place is clearly meant to be as self-sufficient as possible because, you know, all the stuff that's there, the grocery store and all that stuff. But everyone still has their cars, and Lang is probably not the only one. You know, he's not the only one leaving to go to work. So as things get worse and worse and worse in the apartment complex, it's a pretty big stretch for me to think that no one demanded outside help, that there wasn't a mass exodus, that people weren't going elsewhere to get the supplies.
Everyone was self-reliant on everything. so much
Well-
so that they didn't care anymore.
Were
that
they
was the
really
thing.
though?
They didn't want to leave the complex. And really,
Yeah.
it was a world in which you could really not care to go step outside your own place.
Oh, the heck I
Because-
wouldn't have.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm sure some of the people there would have readily adopted that viewpoint, but I can't imagine most of them doing that so easily. It's weird.
The upper crust, I can believe it, but the lower to middle classes, I would start to think that maybe they might care about some outside help.
That's why I ended up asking about whether there was a wider apocalypse, because Hiddleston's character would keep going to work and everything appeared to be fine at work. Even when it was not fine in the apartment complex, it was still relatively like okay at work. And then, of course, he stopped going to work, much like everybody else. And
Right.
the other. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
Go
he
ahead.
Well, I was
seemed
gonna
only
say
miss
the
a
other-
day.
What's that?
I was just saying he only seemed to miss a day because they showed him calling in. He said, "Well, I'm not coming in today," and then he was like, seemed like he was in the next day.
And that brings up the other question I had of how much time actually passes in the film. It's really hard to tell.
It is. It really is, because you don't know how much time has passed. It could be a year, it could be a couple of days, it could be a couple of weeks, but everything seems to go downhill. Because right after that upper crust party where he gets made fun of, he gets stuck in an elevator, and he gets mad at the elevator, and the power goes out. And the next moment you see him with Mr. Royal, and he's like, so how long were you were you out of power? And I think he said something to a couple of hours or whatnot, but it's then is where like you start seeing power outages and.
When he was stuck in the elevator, he actually said, "Relatively not that long," is what he said.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta agree with everybody too that it's kind of confusing as to how nobody says anything, and they just seem to watch everything get worse and worse and worse, which makes them worse and worse. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry. If I saw the garbage piling up at my apartment building, I'd be like, what the hell, man?
I'd be calling the garbage company, especially if I was going to work and my work was outside. Even if the phone wasn't working inside the building, I know their phones worked at his work. So, and then all those cars, most of the cars ended up being trashed for some reason. I don't even know what that was about.
Yeah, that was they all disappeared and they came back and they were like kind of trashed.
And
it was
the whole parking lot at the beginning was full.
Yeah.
And then later on, it's like halfway full, and the cars that are in there are completely trashed.
Did people actually leave?
That's what it seems like. Maybe people.
And the only thing that you get, and the only thing that you seem to get is from a couple of the tenants telling Lang that apparently you don't know the rules. You know.
Yeah. I do like the one that one guy, Richard. He seemed to be the only one that wanted to talk to the architect about, like, he really was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, get this shit fixed. But he went
blames the
overboard with it
for everything.
He went overboard with it, with actually bringing a gun and then I don't think he purposely shot him, even though he brought the gun and didn't seem upset after he shot him. I don't think it seemed like it was on purpose. It was just kind of like a thing when he got hit with the cane that he just kind of shot him.
What do y'all think about Mr. Royal's wife?
Yeah.
She was kind of a bitch. I mean,
Yeah.
she berated that
she
maid.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, she won't clean anyone until we pay her. But poor people are so obsessed with money because we don't have any, you bitch. Like, yeah, when she got slapped, normally when a woman gets slapped, I get offended. Somewhat, I don't like it. You know, she kind of deserved it.
Right.
Oh my god! Yeah, hit that bitch again.
I'm going to be honest. I had trouble keeping the wife and the actress straight.
Yeah, I did too. They kind of mixed together. There was a Clockwork Orange vibe also, come to think of it. It was almost like a lot of the rich people up there were the droogs, essentially. Though the architect was kind of separated from them, but
there was a specific reference according to what I was reading, and I'm trying to remember what it was. But that, again, like I said, that's sort of the idea of it being sort of a Kubrickian thing in a lot of ways. The fact that it was such a 70s setting. And, okay, yeah, in the opening shot of the movie, Lang is using a record player. It is a very special, very rare player known as the Transcriptors Reference Turntable, and was the same one owned by Alex in Clockwork Orange. So, yeah, that was probably a very intentional nod there. There definitely is a little bit of a Clockwork vibe. Makes me wonder if that movie was a big influence on this novel. You know, it's possible. But
it's very possible.
I don't know if anybody would think about this as like a TV series, but I wonder if like a mini series, whether that would, one, it would give a little bit more time to correct the pacing.
Right.
Maybe add in a few things like showing people leaving the bills, like, yeah, I'm done with this. Screw this. Or stuff like that. You know, fill in the blanks a little bit, make it a little bit easier to digest. I don't know. I mean, I might be wrong on that, but I was just trying to think, because the story does, like I say, everything about this says it should work for me, and I'm wondering maybe a TV series instead of a movie. I don't know.
See, after my first viewing, I would say exactly that same thing, but after the second viewing, I would say as say the pacing to me, I was fine with it.
But this is my second viewing.
It's very incoherent of a film. It is, and it. I know what Tammy was telling me earlier, that the fact that she doesn't realize why they went crazy. Why did they go mad? Where did it start? You know. My other question to you guys is: was this film intentionally artsy, or was it actually artsy? Because to me, this would have been the kind of film that, you know, is Oscar worthy, at least as far as, you know, those types of films go.
I wouldn't say it was Oscar worthy in a lot of senses, but it was definitely. I think it was more on the artistic horror spectrum, if that makes sense.
Or like hard sci-fi, probably.
Yeah, I think like along the lines of a Clockwork Orange or a oh gosh, what would be another one like that?
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie.
Logan's Run.
Possibly a Logan's Run. The Logan's Run,
Well,
I felt had much better pacing, but yeah, I
as far as awards go, this film had 6 wins and 14 nominations.
From a lot of them.
It won the British Film Designers Guild Awards, British Independent Film Awards. It was a nominee of Camille Awards. It was a winner of, and those are just a few of those. The Golden Trailer Awards, they were a winner of. Music and Sound Awards in the UK. They were a winner of.
Yeah.
Really?
And
National
incidentally,
Film Awards.
actually, this is one thing that gives it a little bit of that Aronofsky vibe. The music was by Clint Mansell, who did a lot of Aronofsky scores. And so that could be part of the reason for that too. Of course, one of these awards that it won was from the Yoga Awards, a special award for most overexposed actor for Jeremy Irons for Assassin's Creed, Batman v Superman, La Correspondenza, The Man Who Knew Infinity, Race, and this film.
Yeah.
That's kind of amusing.
Actually, though, I'm not surprised that it won some of the awards, unless they were talking about like it winning a bunch of writing awards, which then I would be a little bit off, because I do feel like the issue is not the acting, the issue is not the set design, it's not the makeup, it's the pacing.
Yeah, and the production design was great. So was the makeup.
It was.
Yeah. That falls the pacing falls on the writing and directing.
And editing.
And editing, yes. And I don't know if it won any of those awards, but those are the weakest. I think those are the weakest links in the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I'm a little bit more positive when that comes. For some reason, this film is growing on me, and my respect for it, as far as film adaptations from a book, from what I can understand, of course, in the beginning of this film, how he meets the single mother is he was totally naked lying on that suntan lawn chair. That didn't happen in the novel. I bet
you Kim like that scene.
It was a great scene though. It was just great.
Well, Tom Middleton supposedly has that sex appeal to ladies, yes, so I think that they were trying to draw on that.
She says to him, you know, you're prettier naked. You should be happy because most people aren't. You know, like.
Well, and then later after he'd boned Helen,
the pregnant lady.
Yeah, Helen said, no wonder Charlotte says that you're the one of the best things in this apartment.
Yeah,
building.
I think she's like the best amenities in this. Yeah,
afterwards she said amenities.
Okay, now. But that was one of the reasons that I was wondering about the time frame. Because when he meets her, if I'm not mistaken, when he meets her, she tells him she's overdue. And it seems like there's a lot of time that passes in this film. So I'm thinking like, ooh.
But then she hadn't had
the baby have that yet, kid until the end.
Yeah, that's a very long term.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Do any of you get why they carried her up to the penthouse and brought her up there? I mean,
they put her to work as a maid, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. They probably did just to piss her husband off.
Okay. So I was just wondering, like they were carrying her up, and I was like, what did they do to her? And then I kind of saw her. I mean, I saw like
her
one
child was born. Up there,
yeah, I
know.
I
understand.
I know that. I'm just saying, like, why did they bring her up there in the first place?
It's also probably the cleanest area that's in there, even though as time went on, it was still not as clean as it should be.
I mean, well, there was orgies going on out there, so you know.
Yeah, that's but again. There are some really interesting things about this scattered throughout. There's like tons of ideas. And Dave is right about the fact that with multiple viewings, you get more and more of those ideas. It's not enough to save it for me a second time through. But I do see it. Like I said, like the trash.
I mean,
yes, the lower classes seem to be suffering at first. But it shows that if you trash the lower classes too much, eventually it will filter up to the upper class.
Well, and one
Yeah.
of the things that I noticed is that as the film progressed, the societies kind of intermixed and intermingled with each other by the film's end. So there were people from the upper crust that were hanging out with the lower crust, and there were people from the middle crust that were hanging out with both top and bottom tiers. So
And why did they kill that guy with the glasses? The one they strung up and
because he made some dirty pictures with Royal's wife.
oh.
And he was making himself off to be like this big film dude, and he also was the one to tell Wilder, "You will never make it in the film business ever again." So, whether or not that had anything to do with it no. There were
Okay.
He was actually having someone film him fuck his wife.
Yeah, I seen that movie they showed whoever was I forgot who was watching it, but I seen that, but yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to show why they killed him.
But yeah, I'm thinking that's why, because he did something to Mr. Royal's wife, and some of them were loyal to him.
Right.
I believe that they were trying to fix those within the society that weren't following their altruistic rhythm of rules.
Anybody else kind of glad when that bodyguard or worker, whatever the hell he was found?
Yeah, he told him
floating in
he was
floating in
fired.
the pool. He was floating in the pool, and he never say why, like who killed him or who got. I was kind of like,
Simmons, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he was fired, but he said, "I don't work for you. I work for the building." So
Right.
and then all of a sudden you see him floating. Like you don't know what happened, who did him in, or what. You just see him floating dead at the end, and I'm like, oh, that was kind of satisfying.
I know I got
I
a
would've
kick
liked to
out
have
of
seen
him
it.
getting beat up by Luke Evans' character because he came off to me as like someone who also looked down on people, even though he was like a bodyguard like person.
He was a super asshole. I mean, he kept pushing Tom Hiddleston's character around and shoving him into the elevator and stuff, and
yeah,
it's like just being a real douchebag the whole time.
See, he was a good embodiment of the idea of someone that like has a little bit of power and authority and just gets carried away with it.
Yeah, he reminds me of cops. Most cops I've ever met.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, almost like a bodyguard type, but definitely like, a lot of the upper class
a hired muscle. That's what I would call it.
Like you had that one guy, and I think this is the one that James Purefoy was, Pangborn. You said he was the one with the pipe, right?
Yes. And he was also the one that was racing in the parking lot a lot and raced into that parking space. And and that other dude was like, "You bloody bastard," or some shit like that.
He was basically like the entitled elite. Like him and the architect's wife, I guess, were like the entitled elite, like the super snooty. No one else even is good enough to look at them or talk to them. And they make sport of making fun of the others, that sort of thing. The architect himself actually came off as a fairly decent individual. And you come to find out later that he was just the kind of guy that hid his assholishness a little better. Yeah. Like, I think there was one part where he was talking about Lang, and he is something. I think someone said, "Why do you let him come around?" or something, And he was just like, well, because he knows his place, and that's, whereas, you got someone like,
well, yeah, there was that moment
Wilder.
where Lang was just continually like working out in the only exercise equipment that was left in the exercise room, and they stopped and were like, so what should we do about Mr. Lang? Well, I don't think we should do anything because he knows his place.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, even when they're about to kill the guy, throw him off the building, he's like, "No, I have a smash game with him later today."
Yeah.
But you were saying something, Jake?
Okay. Well, that was pretty much that thought there. Although one thing that was interesting is, you guys pointed out earlier, there was that costume ball where I guess they were all like colonial era people or whatever, and and he stuck out like a sore thumb in his black suit. But later on, you notice when those three assholes, Simmons, Pangborn, and Cosgrove, I think was the other one, when they went down into the grocery store, and they were all wearing like tracksuits or whatever, and I'm guessing maybe that was their costume to show that they were mingling with the commoners, I guess, was their idea of commoner clothing. And then one of them said, when they went into the store, like, I've never done this before, or something like that. And it's like, I'm like, wow, what sort of a sheltered life have you lived that you've never been in a grocery store before? But yeah, I know there are people like that. But
one small aspect is I liked how Lang was checking out this French dictionary thing, and he left it at the cashier. And
Yeah,
then
why
at
do you
the end, as she's speaking fluent French,
right?
And she sounds cute as hell.
That's another one of those time things that's weird. It just some things make it seem like very little time passes, and other things make it seem like tons of time passed.
Right.
But
the movie is odd.
Yeah, it really was. There was. I had a lot of questions that never really got answered. Yeah.
There's a stark descent of madness that happens, specifically shortly after the birthday party, where we have Luke Evans' character, Richard Wilder. He takes the kids down to the pool while there is a private event going on, and
that was funny.
Yes.
And then
they decide to shuck the rules that the pool is closed.
But who killed the dog? Like, still don't even find out who killed the dog.
I think Tom Hiddleston killed the dog so he could eat it.
Yep. That was later, but the dog actually.
Are you talking about the one in the pool, the actress's dog that they found in the pool?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, the dog from the upper cross, the Royals dog, it had wandered off onto other levels and actually got beaten on by that one dude.
I knew that. I wasn't talking about that. I knew who did that. They showed who did that. I was talking about the one that got drowned.
Yeah, that was kind of sad, but
I ain't find it sad, but then I don't like dogs, so different perspective.
Dogs have their purpose.
I kind of laughed because I was like, "Oh, that's what he gets for fucking swimming in the pool."
Dogs have their purpose, but in any case,
I honestly don't wish dogs harm in real life. Just let everybody know that I don't like dogs, but I don't wish them harm or anything. I have, people like dogs, and that's fine. I'm just not a dog person. Just to clarify. But in a movie, sometimes when they get hurt or whatever, I laugh because
I've known some people who were deathly allergic to dogs, so I can get that.
yeah, I'm not
They're
allergic.
like,
I just don't like them.
Yeah, we had a friend who was afraid of dogs. He says, "I'm afraid of any dog unless they're small enough for me to punt them."
Those are the worst dogs in the world, though. Those are the most annoying.
Any
And I would
dog
never-
that you can
I-
drop
Annoying,
kick
yes, but you wouldn't fear them quite the
I mean,
same way.
I wouldn't punt them. I would think about it because I have many billions of times, but I
Any
never
dog
actually
that you
would
can
do
drop kick over a back fence is not considered a dog.
it. Not true. They are fucking dogs, and they're fucking very super annoying.
But in any case, moving on. So we get a descent into madness here that I'm not sure is fully explained, but
No.
the power goes off, the elevators stop working, people have to start using the stairs, people start foraging and scavenging and having sex with each other, and it just goes
In the
batshit
penthouse.
bonkers. It's
So-
not just in the penthouse; it's everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
Why
but
did,
I love when Jeremy Renner's character comes out. He's like, "Where's my wife?" Well, downstairs, whatever. Who invited all these people? They invited themselves. They're just up there having sex in his penthouse. It was, what the fuck?
I swear, in at least the second half of the film, there's not a scene that goes on that there's not someone boinking someone else. So
I
Boy,
understand.
what are you,
the-
80?
I understand the descent into madness. I understand where that comes from. I mean, shoot, you go without power, food, all this stuff, you're going to go batty, especially there. But my question is more as to why.
They
Did
have
the-
cars. why
stir
don't they
crazy?
just go-
I mean,
Why
did
did they just
the,
go to another store or something? Or, why ain't they leave and just,
it's
get
like
what
did
they
the
need?
architect just say, you know what, we're going to stop all services just to see how the poor people react? I don't get that. I don't know why they shut down all the services. That made no sense to me.
And
Well-
why wasn't the rich woman paying her maid?
Because she was snooty.
Well,
Oh shoot! Almost.
you have to pay your fucking employees.
I used to be over at the Greenbrier Hotel all the time when I was young because my father did work there, and there were people all the time, and that were guests there that would say, "I don't understand why these poor people. They should just be happy working for us." And that was a general sentiment of many of the people there. So it's not unusual.
That's retarded.
Yeah.
It may be
How
retarded,
can I don't get how people can be that stupid.
but well, there are people who actually think like that. So it's
You mean don't think?
well, that is always in a matter of opinion, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but
Of course,
It
it's right.
is-
It's an opinion. It's mine. And it's right.
and
No, yeah.
that is how a dictatorship starts. But this film is how when someone no longer dictates how people live, once that power is gone, once that power is shut off, what do people do? Can they think on their own? No. To me, that's kind of how this film reminds me of that. If suddenly people are no longer dependent upon services, are they expected to think on their own? When they haven't been thinking on their own for quite some time. When they're being told where to shit, where to sit, where to lie down, how to breathe, you know, you don't know what kind of society this society is. That's what I'm thinking. Once you pulled all the molders out, are these people expected to act normal, or as normal as we think they should be?
Well, the way that they there was a pretty famous writer that once said that the difference, and I'm going to butcher the line, the difference between anarchy and society is just a few missed meals, essentially. And there's a lot to that. Once that security goes away, then anarchy is not far from breaking loose.
Right. Right. And especially if you have people who know how to pluck that string, I guess you could say, the people that know how to manipulate that aspect of humanity. Yeah. But but I would disagree that this is purely an illustration of people not being able to think on their own. I think this is an illustration of the different ways that people are forced to think on their own.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Lang is kind of the focal point is that he is one of the more resilient and adaptable people in this film. He does adapt and roll with the punches in a way that a lot of the others are just unable to do.
Yeah, he certainly was able to take one one Wilder punch.
Right. Well, Wilder is an example of someone who wasn't able to adapt. Basically, he got so consumed with rage that, directed purely at the architect, even though, yeah, the architect chair deserved a good chunk of that blame, he was not, at the end of the day, responsible for everything that happened. And
Exactly.
and a lot of people, and that, unfortunately, was one of the film's, I think, more spot on moments. It might be one of the reasons why Wilder resonated so well with people who otherwise didn't like the film. Is a very common reaction for people who are put in difficult situations or difficult straits. They need someone to blame, and they will do anything they can to make the narrative fit what they see as the enemy. And
when he is told by the maid that Charlotte is in fact the shall I say mistress,
the baby mama.
Yeah, the baby mama of the illegitimate child of Mr. Royal.
Of the architect.
He pretty much storms the castle and basically mounts that entitlement privilege to find out more information.
Well, I mean, if you want to go without being political when you or referencing modern times, why don't we reference older times like Nazi Germany? People were suffering at the time and looking for a scapegoat. In this case, it was Jewish people. And, somebody was able to point them in the way and say, it's these people who are causing all your misery.
Right.
But not what was really causing the problem. And that led to it. There are modern analogies, but I'm not going to.
Too many to mention.
Yeah.
In this instance, I think people are the cause and the effect of their problems. In the end, what do y'all think?
I don't know if there was a cause to their problems. I mean, like I say, nobody explain why everything went down, why nobody left. Essentially, I think it was just there was no cause, and people were upset because they didn't know who to blame.
Could be, yeah.
What did y'all think about what led up to the ending here?
What do you mean?
Well, as far as after he found out who Mr. Royal really was, because he passed him in the foyer of the high rise, and
he introduced himself, and the architect cleverly didn't introduce himself really, and yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, to me, it did not seem like he meant to kill him. The gun, I think, more to like to be able to talk to him and get his say and scare him, and even though he did shoot him and didn't seem upset about it, I don't think he did it on purpose. But I thought the scene after, when we had like a Caesar scene where all the women grabbed knives and they're all stabbing him, kind of like the Brutus and the you know the others killed Caesar. I thought that was interesting. You know, because I guess despite the differences, all those women did depend on the architect, or they loved him or something, or I don't know. But yeah, they did kill him in Caesar style, which was kind of neat.
I think I think this is one that shouldn't be too hard to find favorite scenes or things that, because there were a lot of good little pieces. It's just
there was just the whole thing
really
together
hard.
was what was didn't work.
Well, in any case, I think we're at the moment where we can. I know we've talked about production, but is there anything that we can say that we haven't already said about production?
It
was very 70s.
Yes. I'd say it had very good cinematography.
Yeah.
That I agree with. I agree that it had very good cinematography.
It did.
And the building itself.
Yes.
I did not like the way that the top like came out like that. It made me feel very nauseous just looking at it, and I definitely did not. And I did not like that.
Made me have a little bit of vertigo looking at it, just a little bit.
Exactly.
I wonder if that was. I wonder if that was on purpose. If you think about it,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. And also just the way it was built, I would probably not have wanted to live in a building like that anyway, for multiple reasons. But definitely I could see being very, very concerned.
If I did, I'd want to live on the bottom.
In one of the upper floors. But
well, yeah. It was supposedly a 40-floor building, and much of the services were on the 10th floor, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
On the 35th floor was that extra pool and spa and a restaurant, which sounded cool. I mean, all the services sounded cool.
Yeah.
It's just would it be within any of our pay grades?
The way they constructed the building, the costume, even when they were doing that party where they were doing like the powdered wig night, it was. I mean, like I said, I feel like this film has a lot of good, and that's the one area. Production design was quite good.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. As far as the music goes, what did y'all think about the music?
I didn't really care for most of it.
I'm a fan of Clint Mansell. I like his scores. I can't say that this one really grabbed me the way, say, Requiem for a Dream did, but I do like his music. So that I overall had a mildly positive few.
I more liked the soundtrack more than the score, because at the party you had the SOS song being played a concerto style, like in a
so-
concert.
That was
So-
probably the arrangement by Mansell. I'd heard that. Yeah.
Portis did the SOS moment, which is where we see the aftermath of what Wilder did to Charlotte, because you see her face bloodied and his face bloodied, and she's giving him dog food to eat, because evidently that's like the last supply of whatever food is left in the place. Besides the steak that you see later being eaten by one of the ladies from the upper class later on. But I like that version that Portis
It
had.
looked like steak, but it was dog.
or it could have been horse.
Yeah, I don't think it was steak. I think it was a horse.
It was horse meat. I think it was horse meat. What did y'all think about that moment where the one lesbian girl came into the orgy and said, "Okay, who's gonna fuck me in the ass?" And then and then of course they had the horse standing right behind her.
Of course.
Well, you knew the answer to that question.
Well, I mean, all the guys was raised their hands like me,
Well, and then they did, and then it seemed like they did some kind of drug dance, and it was weird. I mean, it was just beyond weird.
That's the one word I would use to describe this entire movie. Weird.
That was the one scene that was weird.
It wasn't the only scene that was weird. It was just weird all around, which is why I thought this would be a weird discussion. So
well, the music did fit what it was supposed to do. I'm not sure I would consider it necessarily a memorable soundtrack, but it was. It did do what it needed to do, so it was a functional soundtrack by my estimates.
Okay.
That's
Did
why
anyone
I was
else?
surprised it won an award, because I didn't feel like it was anything special or anything. So, to me,
Well, like I say, I think it just depends on what it won the award for. Like I said, the acting was very good.
Yes.
No, the music.
Most of the
photography-
awards were for
You said
best
there was an award that
features.
they won for the music or whatever, and that's why I was like, yeah, that's weird. Like for the acting, I would agree.
Maybe if I just sat down with the score and just listened to the score over and over again for hours.
Well, it had 6 best feature winnings, and then the rest were nominations, which
Best feature.
yeah, best feature
That
at these.
it should not have won.
See, I liked it after my second
Okay,
viewing.
you liked it, but you fucking love it. Like, if it's best feature, you should definitely love it. I mean, and I can't imagine anyone loving it.
It depends on the competition. I would expect. I don't know what the competition was.
I am willing to bet $1 million that there was better movies than they could.
It's not love, but it's better than like. Let's put it that way. It's because I get the dark humor and the time period in which it was meant to be set, and the fact that it even the novel was controversial at the time when it came out.
There wasn't enough orange. It's 70s. It should have been more orange.
More and brown.
And lots of browns. Tons of browns need to be everywhere.
Oh, it wasn't as colorful as you might have wanted it, eh?
Well, I remember I don't remember much of the 70s, but in the early 80s I was around, and much of the 70s style carried over to the early 80s, and lots of browns, lots of oranges. Actually, Crawl, you were around in the late 70s. Do you remember much of the style?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in '73, so I was
Yeah,
around that and corduroys and stuff. I mean, I have corduroy pants myself and stuff. So they didn't really have corduroys in this movie, but I don't know if it could be because of the UK. Maybe corduroy wasn't
What
popular
about
in the UK.
what about you, Tammy?
I'm not
Do you
sure.
remember the 70s at all?
Somewhat. I mean, yeah, I had corduroys, and it seemed kind of like there was more of like browns and blues, because my favorite color was purple, and it didn't seem like you could find purple that much at that time.
Except for Grimace.
It was like everything else, because I remember, clothes that my, family had bought me, the brown corduroys, and I had like a brown wool skirt,
I know my mom was in the polka dot dresses for my sister and sailor suits when I was a kid. So
that was very bad memories about corduroys.
Yeah, sorry. That is just what I remember. So
Dave, I'm pitching you in a sailor suit.
Well, there is a picture of my sister in a red. Yeah,
turtlenecks were really big.
Turtlenecks was the 80s. I wore turtlenecks.
It's 70s too. It's definitely a 70s thing.
Well, I wore them in the 80s and in high school and shit. So
and in the
corduroys growing up.
Actually, did turtlenecks ever go out of style fully? I mean, I guess they did in the 2000s, maybe.
I think so. I don't know how the inside.
They were mostly in style.
I know ripped jeans are back in style, but I don't know about turtlenecks.
Then bell bottoms came back into style in the late 90s. I remember that.
Yeah, my sister had. I remember my sister and her friends all.
I can't stand bell bottoms. Yeah,
I wasn't into.
I don't think any of us are. I don't think any of us were teenagers when bell bottoms were originally cool. That was back in the early '60s or actually mid '60s. I don't think any of us were there.
I was a late teenager when it came through the second time, but yeah, I wasn't into it at all. Originally I wore like ripped jeans and cotton shirts, and then. Although I was still a headbanger, I tried to dress a little more preppy for a little while. But
I remember corduroys being the most uncomfortable thing.
They were horrible. My mother pictures of me.
It depends on the corduroys. The ones that I had were comfortable, but they were nice and soft,
I wore brown corduroy pants, a brown two-color brown sweater, and a Snoopy necklace. And this is a school picture. So yeah, I mean,
I remember.
Luckily, I didn't get beat up for it. Probably should have, but
I remember having a long sleeve corduroy brown jacket that went with some brown corduroys.
With a patch on it.
Yeah, with the elbow patches. Yep.
Yeah.
The elbow patches were in while I was growing up to dress you up.
Yeah, that's funny. When I first got ripped jeans off, I was like, "Oh, let me patch them." I'm like, "No, ma, that's a style."
I actually had a pair of pink corduroy pants.
Wow. Actually, corduroys was pretty well in style up until the late 80s, if I recall correctly. It stayed in style.
I'd say more mid 80s. Maybe depending on where you lived, what area of the US. But
it died in the late 80s and the 90s. And then the 90s, it was denim. Everything was denim in the 90s.
I'd say it was. There was a ton of denim. I had jeans jackets and stuff, and before I got my leather jackets,
I had jean jacket. My jacket mine was cool. I had Led Zeppelin airbrushed on the back of it and pins.
Yeah, that was very
I was
popular.
I had a jean jacket in high school that I had like a bunch of heavy metal patches.
Yeah, I had a friend had
Yeah.
awesome Iron Maiden one on the back of his, and I was really jealous. I wanted that one.
I guess
Yeah,
the
mine was
point.
Led Zeppelin, and my buddy was Kiss, and he'd be like Kiss rules, and I'd be like Zeppelin rules, man.
I think the
No,
whole thing, I guess,
Zeppelin
is,
rules, Kiss rocks. Where it works.
I think that the point of the whole thing is that the movie, while having good production design, obviously didn't reflect the 70s as much as it should have. It needed
Probably.
far more corduroy and far more oranges and browns.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that definitely. I mean,
Alrighty.
again though,
And
it was
wood
the
paneling.
UK, so maybe in the UK that stuff wasn't. It was different. So I don't know because I was here in the 70s. So
God, the wood paneling was everywhere in the 70s.
it
Alrighty,
was. That's true.
So let's talk about favorite scenes. Let's start with you, Jake. If there was a favorite scene or scenes, what would you take from this film? You're muted, buddy.
No, he's not. Oh, yeah, he is there. No. Maybe he's eating. We should move on to the next
Let's
one.
move on to Forrest. Forrest, if you could take a favorite scene or scenes from this film, what would you take from it?
Let's see.
Oh my God, I do.
Favorites. Probably. I'm trying. Oh God, this movie is just. It's just not very not very memorable for me.
I hear you.
Let's see who texted.
Oh, well, probably the part when Monroe jumps up the 39th floor.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking of that the swan dive. I'm thinking, even with the swan dive in this movie, it doesn't have the impact it did in Damien and Rosemary's Baby, type thing. It didn't quite have that same impact. It was even that was kind of boring. To me, but
well, yeah. Despite Roman Polanski being a total terrible person, Rosemary's Baby was indeed an amazing movie.
it was, but it just made me think of that scene, where the nanny had jumped and hung herself.
So, Kroll, if you could take a favorite scene or scenes from this movie, what would it be?
Oh, I have to say, the swimming pool with all the kids jumping in and ruining their upper class party was kind of funny. That was enjoyable. I do have to mention when the kid says, "You're the last of your family. Did you kill him?" Like that's the first thing that the kid thinks is that he killed them. So I thought that was kind of funny.
As you do.
And the first sex scene he has with the kid's mother, and then they're not quite done, and then the kid walks in, and it was an Annie. She's like, "Oh, this is my son." I was like, "Wow, awkward." It was kind of a awkward, funny scene. So yeah, I'd say those.
Okay. Heading over to you, Jake.
Well,
if you had a favorite scene or scenes, what would it be?
I'm not sure there's anyone that stands out like ahead of the others. I mentioned before that kind of Black Friday scene where he's trying to get that one can of paint, and that did amuse me some. And I just generally I liked some of the scenes with Jeremy Irons, with the architect. I just thought that was a pretty good role for him, and he was an interesting character. His interactions with Lang I found interesting, and generally I like the scenes that had Elizabeth Moss's character Helen, partly because again her interactions with Hiddleston Lang were quite interesting. But overall, I'm not sure there was any one scene that I'm tempted to say, and I guess Tammy might hate me for this. I'm tempted to say that scene right at the beginning where he's petting the dog and then it shows the leg on the spit, just because I was like, holy crap, they went there. And I didn't have that reaction as strongly, I think.
Shame on you.
After that.
I kind of missed that scene somehow. I don't know.
It's right at the beginning.
I probably would have enjoyed that scene as well. So
if you rewatch any part of this film, Kroll, you could watch the first part of it, like the very beginning.
Well, I might rewatch that one scene just to see that, because I think that would be funny. But yeah,
because that's right at the beginning, so it'd be
right.
easy.
But again, I don't like dogs, and in real life I don't want them hurt. But in movies, it's different.
Alrighty, Brandon, did I have you go?
No, but I had two things. They both involved the pool. The first Kroll had mentioned. The second, I don't know what it was, but I did like him taking the architect down to the pool being murky and filthy with all of the nastiness that had polluted the once fresher pool. They were washing the clothes in the earlier scenes. But, just him kind of floating away into darkness, basically in the ruins of his empire. And which brings another... There's too many things in this film. That's the issue. But which brings another aspect of the fall of the Roman Empire. This was the fall of his Rome. So
they even had a Caesar scene, even though he wasn't the one who was killed like that, but his killer was.
Yeah, so that was a really good one.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Tammy. If there was a favorite scene or scenes that you could take from the film, what would they be?
I had a couple. I really liked that scene when you saw the garden for the first time, because I thought that garden was just beautiful, and they did spend a decent amount of time where you could see all different aspects of it. So I thought it was just really neat, because this is on the top of a building, and then there was still the walls all around it So I thought that was really cool. And since I am the only girl, I like the sunbathing scene. He definitely was not bad to look at. My turn.
I mean, that scene was great with the interaction with his neighbor. I enjoyed the scene.
Who cares about the neighbor? I got to see him. Okay.
Though him being naked wasn't in the novel, he evidently a bottle fell and he noticed it, and he was looking around for where it came from, and he went and investigated who threw the bottle, and that is when he started interacting with
well, I'm just saying, you guys always say stuff about the women, so if I finally got to say something about a guy.
That's understandable.
Hey, there was a lot of
there was some
girls in the whole movie.
There was some comedy value there too, because he was so unconcerned about it. Like when you're meeting your neighbor for the first time, if you start naked and they're attractive and clearly into you, then that's going to make for an interesting
I know, because she's like,
situation.
You're a good specimen, I think she said.
Yeah,
And,
she went out of her
like,
way
thank you.
for an introduction. That's for sure.
Yeah, she definitely, and then she invited him up immediately. Yeah, my first thought was, yeah, he's going to go up there and get laid. Now, he didn't get laid at first because it really was a big party, and but it was right after, so, you know, I was definitely right. Just a little after I originally thought. Yeah, I knew they were definitely going to have sex after that. I thought she was with Richard at first because he was standing there, and I thought they were together. And then right afterwards, you know, he's like, I haven't given you my birthday present. And she's like, you're not my type. Like, oh, they're not together. Okay. And you find out he's married and stuff. And I'm like, oh, what an ass. Even though technically at that moment, you don't know if he cheated on his wife. You just know that he put it out there that he would, but was turned down. So, you know, don't know if he was someone that would cheat on his wife or not. But yeah.
Okay, now
But his
to
wife
my
cheated on him.
Right.
now to my favorite scene or scenes. I guess I was amused by the part where the one chick came out and said, "Oh, all right, fellas, who's gonna fuck me up the ass?" And then shortly after that, you see Tom Middleton fucking Helen up the ass, I guess.
I think it was doggy style. I don't think it was in the ass, but I don't know. It's hard to tell, I guess.
She's pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't think that he would be. Really
What does pregnant got to do with it?
Because you don't like stick your penis inside
Yes,
a
you do.
pregnant woman. No.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
You certainly can.
You do.
You
As a matter of fact,
can, but it's medically not told for you
it's
to do.
recommended by the doctors to do so.
No.
It is. Yes, it is. You do not have any children. I do. I have a child, and we.
Well,
had
I can tell you this much. I know it's not recommended.
The doctor told her to because we asked the doctor
you men who
about
have who seem to think you have a medical degree think it is right, but you cannot tell me a doctor that actually prescribes.
A doctor
having
did.
Yes, he wrote out a script for it. Yes.
He just said he recommended it.
I just believe it. But anyways.
Well, also, again, as we established before,
here,
she's like 2 weeks overdue. So that might have actually been prescribed at that point.
She's like years overdue at this point.
It can help you actually give birth as well. So the fact that she's overdue would probably help her more too. You know, and she did have the baby shortly after, so you know.
Yeah.
But I was amused by that. But I did like the garden aspect of the thing. I thought that was a beautiful scene, and bits and pieces with Jeremy Irons. I love him as an actor. I mean, I remember when he played the voice of Scar to his role as Pravion in Dungeons and Dragons, which I know that some
Simon
of you
Gruber
did not like.
I was to say Simon Gruber in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
And I believe he was also in the
Batman vs Superman.
Well, again, that overexposed award. Although I like him as Alfred.
He was great as Alfred.
But there's just bits and pieces of this overall that from the fact that that the children were throwing food on James Purefoy's car. To I mean,
whose car?
The actor who play it's James Purefoy who plays him, but he's one
Pangborn.
Yeah.
I don't know which character it was. I said that earlier, like I didn't know whose car it was, and that's why I was wondering.
Pangborn is what he's referred to as.
I don't remember him.
But for some reason, I thought Toby was amusing.
The kid,
the fact that the filmmaker kind of showed what he was looking at in his kaleidoscope. At times, You know, when it had
Yeah,
that kaleidoscope.
We got to see the Caesar murder through the kaleidoscope. I don't know where the kid was to see it, but he saw it.
That was actually kind of cool. Yeah.
It was.
But yeah, it had different moments where I liked whenever it played something from ABBA. I enjoyed that aspect of the film. I like
That was my
ABBA.
grandfather's favorite band.
It's not necessarily a favorite, but I love their music. So,
They do usually have good music.
and the way that it was used in this film, I thought it was expressive, and I thought it was used well. So, yeah. Other than that, did anyone else have anything else to say about the film? Alrighty, let's go into our outros here then. Kroll, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm disabled, so I just I watch TV, I watch movies, I play video games, I read, and I come on this podcast and another one on Sunday. I've always loved talking about movies after watching them, so I really enjoy coming on these podcasts. Even if sometimes the movies I don't necessarily enjoy, the conversations are always good. So that's fun, and that's pretty much me.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Forrest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name's Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and sometimes actor in Long Island, New York. I recently worked on a short film this past weekend, and then I'll be resuming work on as an extra on a Tromo movie called Bring on the Damned in the next week or so. Also, I have a YouTube channel, Forrest B. Bennett, where I do movie pickups. And I'm also active on Instagram. My name is not Gump, where I do comic book pickups. I've always got something going on. And you can also see me on another channel. You can also see me on another channel called Unger the Radar, where I joined host Randy Unger in reviewing new movies and TV shows.
Alrighty, well, thank you for coming on tonight. It was a pleasure. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm David's fiance. I come on this channel and another discussing movies with everybody. I enjoy watching them and collecting them, and also very into music. And waiting for the summer to get here so I can take out my car. But being in Wisconsin, weather doesn't want to permit that. So, but one of these days I'll get to take out my 1972 Grand Prix.
All right.
Yeah, we want pictures. So.
Well, I've got pictures.
Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, my name's Jake. I live here in Central Virginia, where I am the co-host of SeptumSin versus the World, where we talk about all kinds of fun stuff, physical media and all its forms, and do various projects as well. This week we had a nice discussion to prepare for the Versus Awards. We had Mo and Forrest on with us to help with that. So thanks again, Forrest, and well, Mo, if he's listening. And came up with a couple new categories, and it's going to be good times. And I'll let Brandon give you all more info on all that. I, too, am a film collector and fan and what have you. And I'm also dealing with the vagaries of the weather. We're supposed to have a freeze tonight, which sucks because we've been having nice, springy, even summery weather. And freezes hurt my plant business. So... which is what is the other thing. I'm always busy doing something. If I'm not watching stuff, I'm either at my full-time job or at the nursery I co-founded, where we're growing lots of cool stuff. So keep busy, that's for sure.
Alrighty, heading over to Brandon here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, SeptumSin, a SeptumSin versus the world. We love our physical media here, but I can't say that many people here would say no on that. But we have a lot of discussions. I'm right now working on my edit of the Craiglon incident part 2. I got 75% done with my edit, and then it crashed, and I lost all my progress. So now I'm back to about 25% done. But I am gonna. All the filming is still intact. It's just editing all the clips in, and I do a lot when I do my reviews now. It's called film psychoanalysis, where I do an in-depth. I do like a basic review at the beginning, and then I do an in-depth deep dive into the film piece by piece and go through it. So this will be my third film that I've done this for, and then one more Craiglon incident to go, and I'll move on from for director Joel Wynkoop to other places. One thing I did want to throw out, of course, talking about Mo on his channel, Indie Horror. No, that's Dane's channel. What was it?
Amityville
Okay.
Horror.
No, Mo's channel.
Retro Cult Cinema.
Yes, thank you. We actually did a discussion on the Evil Bong series, so that's actually pretty new. Him and I did that on his channel, so that's a new video that's up. And he'll be having one where I'm sure that myself and Jake will be on, which will be our Totoro discussion, maybe this Sunday. We're hoping this Sunday.
Alrighty. And my name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this film journey. It has been my pleasure to share with you this film, since I didn't know what to think of it, and I think I finally figured out that I more than liked this film. I may not love it, but I guess you, the audience, can decide for yourselves. But next week, we are going to be discussing a little-known 1970s film, part live action, part cartoon, directed by Chuck Jones, Abe Levitow, and Dave Monahan, called The Phantom Toll Booth, starring Butch Patrick as Milo. So hopefully you can get a chance to hear us on that. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also podcast on, and I also do video pickups and video reviews. So check out the channel. Let us know what you like, what you dislike, and whether you have agreed with us. So like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully, I have given you all a good selection to listen to and maybe discover for your own self, as we all tune in next week for another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And hopefully you are not having as much chaos as this high rise did. But say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, John Boy.